Zesting with the almonds that do.
Hello and welcome, and today I'm going to show you how to make bread like you buy in the supermarket. Now, I'm not going to presume to know exactly what kind of loaf you buy in the supermarket, but I am going to hazard a guess that if you're not going to like a fine baker's, you're probably buying the same type of stuff as us that comes in that plastic bag that's kind of soft and squishy. So you can get white, you can get brown, or you can get what we get. We usually get the best of both or 50-50 brands, and that's what we'll be making today. So we'll be using half white flour and half brown flour. If you usually buy brown, just double up your brown mix. If you usually just buy white, double up your white mix. It's as simple as that. So our ingredients here, we've got our strong white bread flour, our brown bread flour. We've got a jug which we'll be filling up shortly with 350 ml of boiling water. We've got 2 tablespoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of yeast, 280 grams of brown flour here, 280 grams of white flour. We've got our whisk mix, I'll go into it in a moment, 2 teaspoons of salt, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and a pint and a half of cold water. We'll go into why we got that right at the end because it's right to do with the cooking. So first we're going to boil the kettle, and we're going to get 350 ml of boiling water. The reason we want this water boiling is because this is for the yeast. And for the yeast, we want things to be as sterile as possible. So I want you to imagine the yeast is like a student you know that has booming amounts of potential, but very little self-esteem. Then we've got the salt here. The salt's like an okay person, but they're going to crush the yeast as a person, you know, they're going to be overwhelming, they're going to be obnoxious, they're going to stop the yeast reaching their full potential. So the yeast has 2 best friends to help her reach her full potential. That's the 350 ml of boiling water, and that is the 2 tablespoons of sugar. That's what's going to get the yeast really lively. So I'll show you that in just a moment. Now, got boiling water right here. Okay, so what we want to do with that now is we want to pour that straight into the mixing jug, because what we want to do is cool down to a temperature that the yeast can handle. But first we're adding the sugar, so that's 2 tablespoons of sugar right there, and we're going to get a little spoon, just give it a gentle mix, help the sugar dissolve. We're going to leave that now for about between 20 and 30 minutes. We want that to come down to about 27 degrees Celsius. Or thereabouts, basically just above room temperature, and that's when we'll add the yeast, so we'll come back after that. Okay, so now that your sugar water has come down to temperature, it's very simple. The next step, you just add your 3 teaspoons of yeast. Nice. And then you want to get a whisk, and you just want to whisk it up. Get it nice and oxygenated and give that yeast a lot to work with, and then you just want to cover it up with some cling film. If you're not comfortable using cling film, that's fine. Use some tin foil or a beeswax cover, just as long as you keep it, you know, reasonably airtight. You don't need to suffocate it because you want to give it some chance to breathe. But what we want to happen now is for the yeast to expand and for everything to start coming to life a little bit. So we're going to leave this now for another 16 minutes. And that's the thing with bread making. If you've never made bread before, you really shouldn't be afraid. I promise there's no skill to it. I am not a baker. I'm a cook. I am not a baker. And I can make bread. And the reason I can make bread is because it's a lot of waiting around. So we're going to leave this for 16 minutes. When we come back, we'll do the kneading process. And then we leave it for even longer. And then we bake it. And everyone thinks you've done something amazing. But you haven't. You've just sat on your bum the whole time. So, we'll leave this 16 minutes. Alright, so let's see what we're working with here. Yeah, this looks great. So this is exactly what you want it to look like after 16 minutes. You want some bubbles on the top. You want a little hint of condensation on your cling film. This yeast is ready to go. Okay, so next step is the flour. So you want to get your sieve. You want to make sure you sieve the flour into the bowl. Otherwise, you're going to make life real hard for yourself because it's going to end up lumpy, and you know that's not impossible to resolve, but why make life harder for yourself? Just resolve it now with the sieve. you've added your flour, next you want to add your 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Good. And then you want to add your salt. Super duper. Just give that a gentle mix. Don't get too involved just yet. You just want to get it slightly combined. Once you've started combining it just a little bit, that's when you want to add your whisk mix. Now your whisk mix is 2 tablespoons of water, 1 teaspoon of vegetable oil, and what is it? 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I always forget if it's 1 or 2. It's 2. So this is going to kind of behave like an egg. You know, give it a little bit of an extra rise. So you add that in, and you want to give it a little whisk just to combine it and get that baking powder getting crazy, because that's what it does. Add it in, and just keep on combining. So what we're going to be doing next is the kneading. Now you're going to need one thing for the kneading. You're going to need 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Then you might need 1 teaspoon of your white flour and 1 teaspoon of your brown flour. Or if you're doing all white bread, 2 teaspoons of white. If you're doing all brown bread, 2 teaspoons of brown. I'm saying teaspoons, I mean tablespoons. Then you might need 1 tablespoon of the white flour, 1 tablespoon of the brown flour. If you're doing all white, 2 tablespoons. If you're doing all brown, 2 tablespoons of that. Use your common sense. So once you've got it slightly combined, looking a little bit like that, just pop it to one side and get your 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil and just put them on your work surface. That's super. And you want to just chuck your dough down onto that. Super. Okay, cool. Top tip, if you set your bowl aside now, fill it up with hot water, it's going to be much easier to clean. Don't let that dough set. So there isn't really a right or wrong way to knead bread. It's just about stretching it out and punching it out and getting the gluten in it starting to work. So that's what we're going to do now. So you can copy my method, but if you've got one, if your nana's got one, if you've seen Paul Hollywood do one, just do that. As long as you're waking it up. But you want to be kneading this for about 9 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set a timer for 9 minutes now, and I'm going to get kneading. There, and already I'm starting to find the dough real sticky. Like it's sticking to my hands and it's going in the right direction. This is exactly what we want to happen. But it's getting a little bit hard to work with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of flour. That's what I told you about earlier. And I'm going to start with the brown flour just because the white's already quite a dominant colour. But remember, if you're doing all white or all brown bread, it doesn't really matter. Just as long as it's 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to take my tablespoon now. It will seem like a lot, but it will make your life easier, trust me. And we're just going to sprinkle that on over. And so I'm not tempted to choose that one again, I'm going to move it out of the way. My kneading now. Once again, it's getting a little bit sticky, a little bit hard to work with, so I'm going to add my last tablespoon now of flour. I've got my white flour here, and this is just going to perfect the dough. It's going to get it right, the right consistency that you want for the dough you buy at the shop. Finishing off the kneading now. You'll see I'm getting a little bit rougher. That's how you want to get.
Are your arms tired?
A little.
Is it worth it?
For this bread? Absolutely. Okay, so that's done. That is good to go, and I'm going to show you how you know it's good to go. Not only is it nice and stretchy and malleable like this, but this is where you want to look for it. You want to give it a poke, and it should gently spring back just like that.
Do it again.
Poke and a spring, poke and a spring, poke and a spring, poke and a spring. I could do it all day. So poke and spring, poke and spring, poke and spring. I could do this all day. So now that your dough is ready, you just want to set that to one side a second. You want to grease your bread tin. I really recommend you get a bread tin like this one, because this is really part of what makes it just like the bread that you buy at the shop, because this gives it that nice straight shape. Now, a lot of the bread tins you see, like, you know, on like cheap offer, they kind of like go off of the side of it. That's very picturesque, and it's great if you're having like a crusty bread. But if you want something that is going to be like soft and squidgy like you go to the shop that you make your sandwiches with, you want to get one like this, and I'll put the link to this specific one in the video description. So if you want to, you can get the same, or at least get similar. I really recommend it. So you want to grease this tin quite well, because there's nothing more heartbreaking than your bread sticking. So I'd say get about a tablespoon of your veggie oil again. The reason we use vegetable oil and not olive oil is because olive oil burns quicker. So if you use olive oil, you're going to get a really, well, crusty bread again, which is lovely, but it's not what we're going for today. So we're going for veggie oil. You get a piece of kitchen towel and you just want to smear it all around the bread tin. You want to make sure it's evenly smeared. You know, obviously you don't want it to be, you know, over the top, but you want to feel confident that your dough is not going to stick. So just gently rest your dough in there. You want to just press it down. And then you cover it lightly with a tea towel. Don't use the fuzzy kind of tea towel. Get a nice, clean, you know, just normal, non-fuzzy kind. And you want to leave that covered, and we're leaving that for an hour and a half. I told you, it's all waiting around with bread. And an hour and a half, that's going to be good to bake. After an hour, preheat the oven to 220. Wow, look at that. That is perfect. And I'll tell you why. Because it's just got up to the top. It's not started mushrooming over the edge. You do not want it to start doing that mushroom shape, because then that's when you know it's overproofed a bit, because that'll be a pain to fit in the toaster as well. So you want to, just before proofing's finished, you want to preheat your oven to 220. You want it really hot in there. You want to have a roasting tin at the bottom, and just above that you want your oven shelf. You don't want anything else in there. You need plenty of room above that for your bread to be able to cook without, you know, touching the top of the oven. So we're getting it real hot, because what we want to do in there is create some steam, and that is where our cold water comes in. So we're going to pour that in now. Are you ready? There we go. Door shut right away. And as soon as you've done that, you want to bring the temperature down to somewhere between 170 and 180. And you want to let that be for 2 minutes. Alright, that's been 2 minutes. Let's get this thing in the oven. And you want to cook that for, it sounds precise, but for me it's 36 minutes. You will have to experiment with your own oven what's best, but it'll be anywhere between 30 minutes and 40 minutes for the perfect loaf. Alright, let's see what we've got. Oh yes, look at that. It looks great and it smells amazing. Oh, I love that bread smell. So, you want to get this out of the tin straight away. Don't worry about being too gentle with it, it'll be okay. And you want to get it onto your cooling rack. If you don't get it out of the tin straight away, if you leave it in there even 5 minutes, it'll start going soggy. I once experimented with just saying, oh, what happens if I let it cool completely in the tin? It was devastating, it was completely soggy. So you want to leave this to cool completely. You can't slice it now, you can't do anything now. And ordinarily, I would say, leave it for 3 hours and then slice it and get it covered. But I started this bread very late. It is now 1:30 in the morning and I'm very, very tired. So I'm going to just leave that and I'll deal with that at breakfast. So good night. Oh, good morning, sunshine. Let's get this thing sliced. Alright, so here's your loaf, and if everything's gone according to plan, it should be nice and soft and squishy on top, just like those loaves you buy in the plastic bags from the shop. So we're going to give this a slice now, and if you're anything like me, you can't slice bread in a straight line for love, money, chocolate. It doesn't matter what's on the table. If the condition is that you have to slice bread straight, you're going to lose. So I got myself one of these things, and honestly, I really recommend it. It's simple, it's picturesque, it doubles up as a cooling rack. You just assemble it like so and pop in your bread. And then you can use these clever little slats just to slice into straight lines. What I'm going to do on this occasion is I'm going to cut this clean in half just so you can see in the middle how good this bread is. So, let's give you a slice. Oh, it smells so good, honestly. There you go, and if you look at that, you've got your nice tiny little bubbles, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So I'm going to get slicing this now. And this is it now, like you're good to go. So you use this for whatever you want. Use it for your sandwiches. We're going to have a bacon and egg sandwich this morning. I'll probably have a open top steak sandwich a little bit later. It's good for toast, it's good for toasties, it's good for your healthy tuna sandwich, whatever you want. This is good for it. There we are. Look at that lovely slice. Ready to go. Whatever you fancy. Okay guys, so there you have it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little lesson. I hope you've been safe in there. This is an especially good recipe for if, say, I don't know, you're forced to self-quarantine due to a global pandemic, for example, and you need some bread. You'll be able to, you know, out of those 2 bags of flour, you'll be able to get a week's worth of bread, rather than having to keep going down to the shop, which you know you really want to avoid doing at the minute. So I hope this helps you, and even if it doesn't, even if you're watching this and like the world is well again, because it will be well again, this is a great recipe. You're going to really enjoy it. This is the most delicious bread and the most versatile bread you're going to make today. So take care, guys. Keep talking to each other. Keep looking out for each other. Keep making good food. See ya.
A boom ba beam ba doom da dee da. Don't forget to subscribe. Ba dee da do da dee da la dee. And it's also nice to give us a like.